Hey guys, welcome to the video. Another Rivermen style conversation with returning guest. I think this is your third time. Yeah, third time. Figure maker extraordinaire. Longtime Havoc fan. Zach Starry. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks
Uh,
for having
we're gonna go over some of these off-season moves because rosters are starting to take shape and fill out. More people are coming back, at least the recognizable faces. We'll kind of go over them, and since you're our guest, we'll start with Huntsville Havoc. Um, one of their first signings, and I think it was an important signing, was Cole Regianato, and I
both
think
of
that
you.
I think that was a big signing, and he wanted to come back, and you knew he wanted to come back. And so like I said, they need a player like Regianato to help police things out there and keep things, you know. And then you got Procopio coming back, and you said his brother is joining the squad as well, right?
That was to me, that was the big signing because we were all as fans worried about the time frame from when he broke it. I mean, people forget it seemed like it was so long, but it really wasn't towards the end of the season. 10 games, that's basically a couple weekends. Luckily, it wasn't as bad as what we all feared. So when they signed when they signed him, well, the first thing when they kept him, we were like, okay, there's hope. And then they signed him pretty quickly, and that was really a good sign that we were going to get our captain back, and the guy I think that really shores up that blue line as far as the veteranship and everything like that. So that to me was the biggest signing as a fan. Now as a fan favorite, then yeah, Reggie was definitely he's definitely loved here. He's basically I would say the equivalent to our Tony Twist. He's the guy who can score them goals. Kelly Chase, I guess. He fights, but he's smart about it. He sticks up for his guys, and he can score the goals. People don't understand. And they see Reggie, they think he's just a goon, but I mean the guy gave us 2 points, 2 goals in game two there in Peoria. So he's a goal scorer.
I mean, if you ask me there too, Dom Procopio is, yeah, like I said, that's Havoc hockey in a nutshell. Him, great defender, and he's willing to drop the gloves too if he has to, and he can handle himself pretty well. And like you said, Cole, he just fits that system so well. He really does. I really think those two accelerate in the Havoc system. Probably would be most successful there. They're like perfect choices, if you ask me. But moving on, we also got the Elgstam brothers, Phil and Doug, coming back, which I think is also big for the Havoc.
Yeah, we weren't even we were told Doug wasn't going to come back, and so next thing you know, we see him and his brother signed, and it was really good. I have a Doug, kind of faded a bit in the second half, but he was still a key contributor, especially in the beginning. His brother had a bit more of a slow start and then took off in the end. So definitely getting both of them back. Kind of excited to see what Don's little brother brings to the squad. Having two sets of brothers is really cool. But I mean, that just kind of drives home the fact that Havoc hockey is always family hockey. So they're kind of showing it more now this year, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool to have two sets of brothers on the team. That's awesome when you can play with your brother at the even at this level. That's pretty awesome and kind of rare too. So to have two sets of brothers, yeah, that's really cool for him. But they also brought back, I think, two huge signings. One guy I really like a lot too. Jack Yanich and Buster Larson. I think these guys are unbelievable hockey players. We had Jack Yanich for a little bit in Peoria, basically a cup of coffee. So I got to see him play a little bit, and I liked everything about his game. And even when before Havoc got Buster Larson, I was a huge Buster Larson fan. Big body guy that can score goals. What are your thoughts on those two signings?
Oh, it's big, big signs. Jack was kind of one of those guys that he was. He didn't really stand out, but on the team that we had last year, I mean, it was hard to stand out and be a solo guy unless you brought something unique to the table. But you definitely knew when he was out there, and he would come up with some key goals at the right times. So when they, put him on the keeper list and then signed him rather quickly, it kind of shored up that offense a little bit more. And then Buster, I was more worried about someone else taking Buster because he came alive there right at the end. I mean, he was good since we got him. I mean, it was worth the trade. I always tell people he was worth the dishwasher or the washing machine we traded for. But um, definitely in those playoffs, I mean, he really made an impact. Kind of went a little silent in the finals, but played against a lot better defensive team. But I think that's going to drive these guys to know what what it's going to take. I mean, I I like seeing all these guys coming back. We only lost a few, and they were older guys we knew we were probably going to lose anyways. A few of the young guys we lost: Henderson, Stewart, and can't think of the other guy right now. But we those hurt. But seeing all these guys come back, it kind of just makes me think of that story between the Oilers when they lost to the Islanders in the finals, and they walked by the locker room and seeing the Islanders, they weren't celebrating. They weren't even really excited that they won their fourth straight Stanley Cup. They were icing up. They were in pain. They were just glad it was over. And that showed the Oilers what it has to take if you want to become Stanley Cup champions. And the Oilers returned back and actually beat the Islanders and took the cup from them. So that's what I hope the Havoc saw is that it's not just a regular season. It's not just a hey float down the road in the playoffs, and you got to work for it. You got to grind for it. You got to bleed for it. So um, that's
Agreed. Yeah, and then also we bring back I think three big defenders for Havoc and Mason Palmer, Craig McCabe, and Matt Duran. Um, what are your thoughts on these three guys and what they bring to the Havoc?
rookie of the year, Matt Duran.
Yeah, I guess. Whatever.
Credit for the all rookie.
uh,
But I kept waiting and waiting, and they just signed him. But he was the one I most happy to have back. I really liked the way he plays defense. I mean, even in the finals, he was really the sure end up there against the Rivermen. I mean, you could tell he was getting tired, but he was holding his own in there. He didn't back down. You guys, attacked the net very punishingly, and he was standing up to him. So I'm very happy to have him back. I think we've got a great defense this year. The offense, I think, pretty much stays the same. But defense wins you championships, and we saw last year in the finals that it was hard to get through that Riverman defense. It was hard to get from the blue line in, and it was hard to sustain the puck inside the zone. And shots were getting blocked because people were, they knew the game. They've been in the league a long time, and I'm hoping that our D comes back and sees that. We add Procopio, keep him healthy all year long, and that can be us next year. I really am excited about that defense.
yeah, I would be too. I mean, it is a pretty good defense. I knew that going into the final. Just like I said, I knew they would be a matchup trouble for just about every single team. They were kind of my dark horse. I don't think many people expected them to make that final. I think a lot of people would have picked the Dogs to beat the Havoc, but they were always, and I said that's the worst matchup for the Rivermen to play the Havoc in the final. They probably would stand even more so than the Bulls at the time. I would be more worried about the Havoc at the time. So, I thought we played the best team, honestly, matchup wise, and we walked away with the win. So it was definitely well earned because I don't care what the score said. Havoc made us earn everything out there, and it was a fun series. It really was a fun series to watch. But moving on, we got a couple of others. Now, I think these were younger guys, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you can shed some light on them. Not even sure if I'm saying one of the names right, so just give me some grace on that. But Jeremy Gervais, I think.
Great, like Ricky.
Yeah. And Benito Poza, I did see got signed back. These were two younger guys, newer to Huntsville, weren't they?
Post, yeah, Gervais came in later in the year, I think, and then Posa came in rather late, but he's the one who came in to replace Reginato in game 3, I believe, against the Dogs, and scored the tying goal to make it 1-1. And it just makes you wonder, man, if he hadn't played that game, would we have tied that game up? Would we have gotten that momentum back so quickly? I was really shocked to not see him play in the finals. Um, I'm not the coach. I'll never question Stu's. Um, you know, with the way he coaches the team, that's his team. I'm just a guy that fills a seat. But I would have liked to have seen Post get more. So them signing him, bringing him back, I think he'll get to be more um, out there, more play time, and all that stuff on the ice. So that'll be really good to see because he was good. He's not afraid to mix it up either. And I think that's what you need nowadays. If you're going to win a cup, you got to play that Riverman style hockey where you got to score goals, but you got to stand up for yourself. You got to get underneath that team's skin, but you got to be able to back it up. You can't be, like the Storm where you go around trying to pick a fight but can't stand up for yourself.
Right, right, exactly. Like I said, Riverman, like we literally just had this conversation, but the mental warfare is a big aspect of Riverman's game. They're one of the best in the league at it, and they got some of the best players at playing those games to get under your skin, to throw you off your game, to make you do something out of character. It's all part of it. It's all gamesmanship, and they execute that well. And this dates back clear to their IHL days too. So I mean, it's just always kind of been a part of their identity, and they play it well. They really do. Um, Moving on. Now, I think this is I would be excited for this one. Big return at net, Brian Wilson. I thought he played outstanding. I think he came from the FPHL, didn't he? And yeah, he played outstanding for Havoc. Uh, Even the little time he got, I think he played like what 1 or 2 games in the playoffs. Zach, I'm not sure.
I know lock up game 2. Um, he really shored up that net and allowed us to make the comeback. I think that's the only one he played in.
Yeah. Yeah, he like I said, he did a lot. He did a lot for Havoc, and I think he definitely overshot people's expectations on the way he would perform and play. Of course, when you have somebody like Mike Robb come back, it's the reason you start Mike Robb, and it was the right decision. But I'm glad that Brian came back. Still unsure about Mike Robb. I think so having seeing a familiar face like Wilson come back, I think definitely helps the confidence. What are your thoughts on that?
So, we started the season with 2 different goaltenders signed, and then they just both disappeared. Never even heard what happened to them. Next thing you know, we're signing Wilson, and I was excited because um, I knew he played with Mad Dog and up there in Dansbury, and then the next year when Peter retired, Brian took over. They won a cup, and I asked Peter. I said, what's the deal with this guy? He said, oh man, he's a great guy for the fans. Uh, he's a great goaltender. So I was like, cool. I was pumped, and we've seen a game. I think it was the exhibition game against Peoria, and he looked excellent in that game, and really shored up the net for us in the first half of that season until Mike came in, and I definitely think Brian could have been in net in the playoffs, and we still would have had the same outcome. He's a great goaltender. I think though, coming in the playoffs, going down that stretch, I think Mike had like 3 shutouts out of 5 starts, and Mike was like boom or bust. He'd either get a shutout or he's giving up 5 goals. And um, I think the right choice was give Mike the shot. Mike came in against Fayetteville and looked absolutely phenomenal. Looked great in game 1 against Roanoke. struggled in game 2, but Brian came in, and I think he gave up one goal, but we almost made the comeback that game. But you can't go away from one guy who's played great since you brought him back. He looked great in game 3, looked great in game 1, the finals. Little shaky there in game 2. Game 3, he gave up those 3 quick ones, but the one thing I liked about Mike as we are watching, I always like to watch the goalies when they give up quick goals. You and I both being goalies, I like to watch them, see how their demeanor is. And they must have been asking him, "You ready to come off? You want to come off?" And he shook them off, and he didn't give up another goal the rest of that game. It wasn't until you got those empty netters that you put more on the board. Game 3 was a game than what people remember just because of the outcome. The outcome ended with 2 late cherry picking over empty net goals. Without that, I mean, it's a 3-1 finish, and not to take anything away from Rivermen, they earned that, they got those goals, but Havoc locked it down, Mike locked it down from there, and that cute little trick of sucking everybody into the net, throwing it up top to the D, and launching howitzer in the middle of a screen, which is a great move. It's nothing to take away from the Rivermen at all. I sitting there was like, this is a great move. Why don't more teams do this? It was so deadly and so effective, but the Havoc shut it down after that. Mike was ready for it after that. So definitely think Mike is a great goaltender. I definitely think Brian is a great goaltender. Getting one of those guys back was huge. I think the fact we signed Brian but still own the rights to Mike, so whatever venture he's off doing, if he's coming back, we can run this thing right back with a great battery again. So I was very happy to see Brian come back. I think even if Mike doesn't come back, we're still set, especially with his experience, all the other guys coming back. Yeah, this is going to be the from the blue line in is going to be a really good team.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And then I got one more new guy, and I saved him last on purpose. Uh, I seen Connor Fries was added to Huntsville. He is a skilled player. He does play, but I think sometimes he thinks he's a fighter and he's not at all. And I think that gets his team in trouble more times than not. And I think that's always been the issue is he's overly aggressive. Uh, um, but he does have some skills. So tell me, former Storm, former Marksman, what are your initial thoughts when you seen Fries was signed to Havoc?
The former meme
Yeah.
guy Fries, uh, it definitely raises some questions. But again, trusting Stu, trusting our great legend GM we got. Um, uh, I don't think they bring in head cases. I think guys that come in and have proved to be locker room problems, they don't last in Huntsville. That's why Dale Dion left, and some other guys that you're not going to play for the chest. You're not going to play on the team. And um, I know there's those issues with Fries. I think he had some big issues up in Quad Cities and stuff like that. Um, I think he's brought in to give these younger forwards the leadership, the skill. I don't think he's brought in to do the goal scoring, to be the star. I think he's brought in more for leadership, veteran leadership. We'll see how it works up. I kind of marked this signing as basically the Barber signing. We brought him in. He was there just to give us some more offensive support, make it to where our get keyed on so much because now there is a true goal scorer out there. And Fries, he's not probably washed up yet. I know he didn't do. I don't think he did very well last year. I could be wrong, but you leave him open to go after a Buster Larson and double team him. I mean, he's still got deadly, marksmanship with him. Um, Definitely odd though that he was the captain and they said, "Nah, we don't need you anymore." So that is very scary signing. I'm not gonna home team this up and everything like that, but I do think that our coach and GM they don't bring in people that aren't gonna make the team better,
I
and that means
one thing I'll say about Fries is he is a good facilitator of the puck. He knows how to pass somebody open, and he doesn't turn the puck over much. like I said, my thing with Connor is just I think sometimes he lacks discipline, and he likes to think he's like a Matthew Hobbs or Tristan Trudell and can just throw down at the drop of the hat, and that's not where his strength lies. I think he would be a much better hockey player if he got away from that. But we'll just see what maybe that's the Havoc is somewhat taking a chance, thinking they can they can make him a little more disciplined, and
Yeah, that and you never know someone's role. I mean, last year, like I said, he's the captain of the team. You got to set precedents. You got to, and if you're not really qualified to do that, where now you're just kind of going to be brought in to give some extra um, firepower to a young roster. I mean, yeah, these guys played last year, and yeah, they're coming back. Yeah, they went deep. Still second year for most of them. A lot of them were first year players last year for the Havoc. So you need that veteran leadership. We saw last year, who our veteran forward, Kyle Clark, um, Fisher. Those guys they're up there, and we need Clark. So there's got to be another guy to come in and fill his shoes. You don't want to fill it with another rookie, and now you've got just Fisher being the veteran guy. They're trying to lead his group. You got the defense shirt up. That's great. Now you need some firepower. You can't just win games 1-0 every time. So I think Fries comes in. I wouldn't even be surprised if he don't get a letter on his chest, either an A for road or home, just because I think he's brought in to be the leader. I don't think he's brought in to be the goal scorer. I don't think he's the, um, let's say, Caleb Williams of Chicago Bears. He's not going to be the savior. Um, just had to throw that in there for you.
yeah, of course you did. I knew you did. I was wondering if you would make a Bears reference or not. I was waiting for it. But yeah, I think yeah. So those are the players that they brought in, and like I said, I think it's a decent cast of players, some good players to bring back. And you've kind of touched on it a little bit. We did lose a few players to retirement. Alex, what Kilcheski, and Kyle Clark both, called it a career. And then, like what you said, David Thompson, Eric Henderson, and Dylan Stewart moved on overseas, as well as Brett Humberstone moved overseas as well. So, I think Thompson and Henderson might be the biggest loss in that bunch. With the players that's moved on, not retired. I think Kilcheski was a great player for Havoc as well. So I think you'll kind of feel that loss on the defensive side a little bit. Um, but yeah, Thompson and Eric Henderson. Stewart was a good player too. But what are your thoughts on those players moving on?
I think Stewart was the one that hurt the most. Henderson was good. Thompson, I bet Stewart was definitely a playmaker. He was one that hurt. But the nice thing is they are still tagged. So if season ends quicker over there, they can come back and play some extra month or two of hockey, or if they get cut, stuff like that. So they could still potentially come back. Am I looking for that? No. I'd rather run a season like we did last year, where we started with the core guys, maybe got one guy back. Last year really we didn't do a whole lot of ads and drops that were keystones, except for the Mike signing, and that really just kind of worked out perfectly. I think he was overseas and things didn't work out, and he became open, and we had already had him tagged, so it was just bam, come on back. Um, so yeah, they hurt. They definitely did. I think if we had those three guys back for another year, would have definitely had a great look at the offense. But we signed some key guys. I think we got some younger talent again, and the thing that um, DeTulio is really good at is he finds these young guys from colleges that aren't your Denvers and your Boston colleges. He don't go searching high and low from the skyscrapers. He gets the guys that work the best. I mean, you look at he found Tyler, and Tyler's this little bitty guy from a little college up there in New England. found maps from this little bitty college. These guys aren't the powerhouse school, but they come in and you would think these guys had played for these, UMass and all that stuff. They just fit really well. I don't know how he interviews them and what he sees in them, but every player that he assigns um, just comes in and contributes really, really well, and they instantly become fan favorites. So I trust the system. We've been here long enough. All the fans down here. A new guy comes in and not one of us sweats it because we know he's going to work out or he's going to be gone. And most of the time they work out. So
Yep. Yeah. Now, we'll quickly, a lot quicker than the Havoc side of things. We'll quickly go over some Rivermen callbacks because I do want to touch a little bit on this brooding Havoc and Rivermen rivalry. I think it's more of a competitive one, but with the
I think
River, what's that?
it's more with the fans.
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
because
The kind of back and on the ice, I think it's more of a competitive rivalry, if anything.
for the finals, there's really not much of a fan. Right, I think the fans have kind of kept that alive since the finals. So
Yeah, yeah,
cut you too far.
yeah. So on the Rivermen side of things, right now, who we have signed on our roster, some of them are invited to ECHL camps. Granted, but I wouldn't, and I hope they're successful, obviously, but wouldn't be a surprise if a few of them came back to us. But obviously, we got Tristan Trudell signed with us. That was like one of our first signings, and obviously not much of a shock. But he is in an ECHL camp with the Comets right now, so if he makes that, he could be starting in the E this year. We'll just have to see how that goes. You got Mike Gillette signed to return. Now he does again have a camp invite up to Bloomington Bison. Um, but Mike is, I think, a huge return for us. That dude's a playmaker and a big body, so I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed in the E because he definitely has the skill to. Two big defensive signings that if they come back to us is huge. With Chase Spencer and Renee Dadajanov, I think those two really held down the line and were unsung heroes in our defense. Outside the typical defensive core. Um, then we got Alec Bear coming back, who was named captain, which I feel is a great choice for captain. Great leader. Just an all around one of the most skilled players in the SP, more than likely. Um, got Jordan Ernst returning. Very versatile player, played on defense and was a winger. Um, Havoc know Jordan pretty well, I would say, especially Mike Robb. Got an up close introduction of Mr. Ernst. We'll touch on that in a second. Zach Wilkie coming back, obviously a huge, one of the best defenders in the SP. Um, Caden Cahill coming back. I think this dude's in for a monster year this year. Very skilled, underrated player. In my opinion, the definition of a professional. You rarely see this kid get rattled and take undisciplined penalties. Um, Nick Armenterio's coming back. He played a little bit with us. I'm excited to see what he has to offer. And Braden Barker is coming back again. Another versatile Riverman, played on the defense and was a forward as well. Um, all around leader and contributor. And then we got some new guys that were up in the E basically all of last year. But Carlos Forneras, he already said, he's coming to play for the Rivermen, so he won't be in the E. He will be starting with the Rivermen, but he's basically had a career in the ECHL. So I'm interested in to see how he contributes. And we got a set of brothers, Tyler and Troy Cobran. Um, Troy was the big goalie signing. Now again, these two have camp invites to the E. If anybody comes back to us, I have a feeling it will be Troy, the goalie. Tyler is an outstanding player. He probably will make camp up in the E and start up there. And I only want to bring up one college signing just because of the sheer size of the guy. But we do got a guy coming out of college here who's about 6'5", 220. His name's Jake Vaughn. He also has an ECHL camp invite in Maine. Um, but I think he's expected to start with the Rivermen, and I tell you what, and he's a forward. That's a pretty big forward at 6'5". So I'm pretty anxious to see him. Losing,
That's
obviously, Hags to retirement, McPherson to retirement, and Latinovich signed overseas. Sorry if you hear my dog whining. But yeah, so initial reaction on those names I just read off, Zach. What do you think?
a lot of uncertainty. I mean, I know you said a lot of them could be back at the E, but if they're getting camp invites, that means people notice them and they could take a call up. That's the one thing that if I'm a Riverman fan, I'm worried about. Where in the teams you had in the past, they were pretty set. They were staying there. They weren't taking call ups. Um, I think Nick probably passed up on one or two last year because he had a stellar season. There's no way no one was calling asking about him. But I think they were staying. They knew what team they had. That's the problem with some new guys you got coming in. They come in and the SPHL is a stepping stone for them. They don't want to stay there. They want to go to the E. They want to take as much time as they can. Um, I think the ECHL has changed since COVID. I don't think it's as easy to break into and stay. So players that go up, I definitely feel like you're just wasting time. I like seeing teams down here keep guys all year long because you can keep that consistency. The fans can keep that consistency with that player. But there are some players that they will disappear and they won't come back. Um, I do think that losing Latinovich was was bad. I think he was again using the SPHL as a stepping stone. Though he went to Peoria out of sheer luck and flourished. I think he would have done well had he stayed in Huntsville, but we had to make a gut call on a few things around here. And at the time, he was up in the ECHL. I think that's where he wants to go, and I think that's why he went over to Europe. I would be shocked if he comes back, but I wouldn't be shocked if he comes back at the end of the year if their season ends first. I think that could be really huge. Could be like the year when you guys got Jack back at the end of the year and went on a run. So that's scary. If you don't think that's scary, then you're not really paying attention to the Rivermen. A few key players, I was kind of shocked that they went with Bear over Wilkie for captain, but it does make sense at the same point. It's one or the other. Um, I do think that you guys have a good core coming back, but they are older. They are beat up. They have a bigger target on their backs this year than they did last year. I think the Dogs beating them in the conference finals year before kind of took some of that off. Especially the Rivermen really started off pretty slow and poor last year. I remember talking with Trudell after that. I think it was the first 3 games of that 7-game demolition derby that we had back-to-back weekends with, and you could tell there was some concern in his eyes. He ended up having to put aside his, side gig and actually travel with the team, and he got them back on par. And I mean, they're good. They are good. I like to joke with Rivermen fans because they get so sensitive anytime you tell them that their team sucks instead of being confident. But they are a scary team. You just got to wonder when it's going to disappear. And when it disappears, I don't think it's going to come back the way it did, the way it's always been there. And I don't think it'll go until Trudell leaves. But when he leaves, I think that's when Peoria's going to see a bit of a change. And they're not going to be the rough and tough style. They're not going to be the team that intimidates people to a W. I really feel like that is the Riverman style of hockey. If they played a normal game of hockey, they probably wouldn't win as much. But they get you off your game. They pick at you. They don't care about taking a penalty because all that amounts to you either thinking you need to play their game or you're going to be so intimidated you're going to let them walk all over you. I definitely think that's why Havoc matched up so well with them last year. I think, I'm not wrong, we were the only team to beat you twice at home in the regular season, the only team to beat you in regulation. And then we're the only team to have a winning record against you. And it's because Huntsville never stooped to that level of play. They continue to, score. And I think coming into the finals, that's where the Rivermen made their adjustment is when they played defense, they stayed big. They didn't get sucked into that speed of the Havoc. Um, I do think, Trudell's a great coach. He's the biggest threat Rivermen have for any other team. He's smart. He knows the game. He played the game, and he makes his adjustments. And I seen a big time adjustment on defense from game 1 to game 3 with the Rivermen. And that's not to take anything away from Stu. I really think Stu is good. I think he's still learning, but he's a smart guy too. And I really think this could be a rematch this year. And that's not just saying it because you and I are talking. I know the dogs. The dogs are scary too this year. They were scary last year because everyone thought they were just going to fall off a cliff. They came back, captured, I think, the 3 seed,
Mm-hmm.
and played. Um, Fayetteville's going through a bit of a change. Knoxville's going through a bit of a change. The Storm, I think, are going to start building. They got a new coach now, so we'll see. Macon, under new ownership, they might finally start getting some talent in there, but also got to worry about Birmingham. And so it's going to be a good look to the league to start the season. I do think the Rivermen have a little more competition to go with, losing their captain. Um, if I think they're without their captain, right?
They're what?
0-1 without their captain on the ice. Am I right? I mean, that was he
I'm
was
not.
behind.
I can't confirm that. I'm not entirely sure, but uh,
I'm pretty
yeah, I'm not sure.
sure
Uh,
back on the.
but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, look, Hags. We know what he means to the Rivermen. We know what his legacy is. We know that's just not something you replace overnight. I mean, losing Hags will be impactful. I think the Rivermen are fortunate. They got a core group of captains. I mean, you look up and down. Ernst can be a captain. JMP could be a captain, and I would be shocked if he doesn't return. I mean, that would be my biggest shock of the off season. But if he does return, like I said, JMP could have been a captain. Wilkie could have been a captain. Bear could be a captain. I mean, like that's where the Rivermen are fortunate. They have a coach that's one of the best to coach in this league. I mean, that's not being arrogant or cocky. I'm just stating a fact. He's one of the best coaches to coach in the SP. And when you have that mixed with the veteran leadership that you got on the ice, it's dangerous. I mean, it would be dumb not like what you said, it would be dumb not to acknowledge that. And I completely agree with you. Honestly, the way that the rosters are shaping up, especially for Havoc and Rivermen, I for one would not be shocked to see a rematch in the finals between these two teams. Um, and you see that a lot, especially in the SP when a team knocks on the door of a championship and just miss out, and then that next year they storm back with a vengeance. Like, no, we were there. We know we can get it. So now you're gonna have to worry about us, type of
Uh,
thing.
the thing that worries me, that stops I think a rematch is the Bulls.
Yeah,
Uh, they were there. I mean, you what you just touched on. I mean, the Rivermen went to 3 straight losses, came back. I think they skipped. I think COVID happened. They got beat in the first round. They were the presence, but they still put together a hell of a season. Next year was COVID. The following year, they came back and won it all. Probably could have done it the year prior, but they ran into the Dogs, who were that team they beat, and they wanted it way more. They beat the Bulls. The Bulls came back last year with the Presidents Cup championship, and really should have won that first series. I think they just took Evansville too lightly because of game 1. I think a huge fire is lit underneath that team, and I would never take anything away from them because I know what that's like. They start signing a lot of guys. Both their goaltenders are coming back. Stewart is an amazing goaltender. Um, we're not going to take anything away from those fans. The Huntsville Birmingham rivalry can get pretty ugly at times, but for the most part, we both have a lot of good core fans that get along with each other. We're all friends and stuff like that. Um, and I would never tell them that, oh, your team sucks because they lost to the 8 seed. I mean, it was comical in the fact that, okay, we're rivals and stuff like that, but at the same point, a lot of us felt bad because, not that that's a humiliation thing, but that was supposed to be the year. I mean, that was supposed to be your Birmingham got there and got the job done, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not even tougher this year to play. They know what it takes now. They're a little more pissed off. They have that drive to not let up. They're the team that, if you could find somebody to do a podcast with, talk about that team, learn a little bit more about them, because they're going to be scary this year. This isn't just going to be Rivermen, Havoc, go back to the finals. I mean, the Dogs can still put things together. I haven't seen if Rowdy had re-signed yet or not, but I mean, he's a hell of.
I don't think Rowdy signed yet.
I mean, if he signs back, that team can make a deep run. But the Bulls are ones that you could be looking at another presence, championship right there with them. So this isn't just you and me talking, and we're just going to declare our teams champions of the league. There are other teams out there, and there's going to take a lot. But I think every one of the teams that were at the top last year are still building to try and jump that hump. And that's what, if I'm a Riverman fan, you got to kind of put on a little bit of, humbleness, humility, be a little more humble this year, put it that way, because there's teams out there that they're coming, and you're not able to just glide through the year. I think this year there's a lot of change in Peoria, and there's a lot more stability elsewhere. So should make for a fun time. I think the league will be pretty competitive for the top 4 to 5 teams this year. Last year, you kind of didn't see things shape up to the very end. Everybody was kind of wondering. We knew the top 2 were, but Fayetteville went from number 1 to number 5 to back up to number 4. And it was, I think last weekend of the season, we didn't know who was going to finish 4, 5, and 6. I think this year you're going to know the teams throughout the whole season who's going to finish in those top 4 spots. So,
well, and I caught crap for it, but to me, the top 4 teams are the easiest for me to pick. I mean, of course, I ranked Rivermen at 1, and I know a lot of people think I did that just because I'm a diehard Rivermen fan. But if I take my Rivermen fan cap off and just look at it objectively, guess what? Still ranking Rivermen number 1. But just because I rank them 1 doesn't mean it's a slam dunk we won a championship. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they stand the best chance at going back to back. And you got to put in Havoc, and you got to put in Bulls, and you got to put in Dogs because of the moves they've made the previous seasons. I mean, it all ties together. Now, the rest is up for debate. I think Knoxville can make some noise with the moves they made. I think Pensacola is going to go in the toilet, and they'll be lucky to make playoffs. I'm not backing down from saying that. I'm sorry to the fans, but you'll be lucky to see playoffs after this season. Bottom line. That's just the cold, hard facts. But, again, anything could happen, they say. Anything could happen, but if you objectively look at it and just follow the dots, it leads you to a conclusion, and it's not good for Pensacola.
The other thing too is, like I said, I had a little bit of hope for Macon getting a new ownership and stuff in there. Then they go and hire the Storms coach that couldn't get them out of the basement. So, I mean, we're going to find out, was it the Storm ownership and GM, or was it the coach real quick down there in Macon? But going back to you picking the Rivermen, it wasn't really a surprise you pick them. You guys have a word you guys use a lot up there in Peoria. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's called nepotism.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I tell you what, if it wasn't for the injuries and suspensions, okay, Trudell could have been Rookie of the Year. But
thing I told you, I don't know if you saw it or not, but the Fort Wayne head coach used to play for the Havoc and was our assistant coach when we that first year, or your guys' third trip. Um, so maybe he's going to sign Trudell to a contract up there and keep him out of the SBHL for us. So there's always that possibility.
Well, like I said, I think some of those players, like I said, from the like Trudell, I would be kind of surprised if Trudell stayed up in the ECHL. Not because he isn't talented enough, but I do think he could benefit from like another full year down here in the SP to kind of be more more disciplined. We know how strong he is, how tough he is. We know he can fight now. I think he kind of made that reputation and name for himself. But so now I think he can focus more on hockey. He's even got a championship out the way. He won. So I think he can play more relaxed and focused and play more hockey and focus more on the hockey side of things than the physical side of things. And I think he would benefit from another year in the SP before making the jump. And you can make that argument for a few of them, but do they have the talent to stay up in the E and produce? I mean, of course. And if they did, like I said, nothing but success to them. That's all I ever want for these guys is success and for them to achieve their dreams, whatever that may be. So, I'll never be salty if they don't come back. Of course, as a fan, it sucks. Selfishly, you want to see them come back. But if they're going on doing bigger and better things, then obviously I'm happy for them. And
One player,
go ahead.
Donald, Justin
Who?
Donald. From he played with us during the COVID shortened year, and then he went to I think Fayetteville. Oh, yeah, he was in Fayetteville, and then I think he was with the River Dragons last year. Knoxville. He went Knoxville, and then I guess he's waiting to take over some coaching jobs. So the Havoc signed him for another year. So a little more veteran leadership there in the front lines.
You can never have too much veteran leadership. It's
For Knoxville, if I'm not mistaken, had a hell that year. It was 2 years ago because I think we knocked him out of the playoffs that year. But he had a hell of a season as far as points. I can't remember. He led the league in points or goals or something. I can't remember. But Chris Green would be the one that would know best about that. But I was glad to see him come back. He's a super nice guy. So
yeah. So like I said, it's going to be an interesting year, like for sure. Like just because I can sit here and pick the top four, doesn't mean I don't think there could be shakeups. I do think there's teams that can make noise, and I just don't know what to think of Knoxville. Like I said, I'm trying to reserve judgment on like Quad Cities and Macon. It is a new coach, new things going on there. I do think they can improve, but I don't look like for instant success. I'm not looking for that for Macon and Quad Cities. I do think they can find success, but I do think it'll take time there. That's why I said like the bottom three is tricky because I still think it's going to be Thunderbolts, Macon, and Pensacola Ice Flyers. There's your competition for who's going to miss the playoffs, in my opinion, is those three teams. Um, right now, if I'm a Thunderbolts fan, I'm happy with the way things are going in Pensacola because I'm like, oh yeah, 8th seed, here I come again. But
perennial.
yeah, the gatekeepers of the playoffs. I guess the if they make it, it's going to be 8th seed pretty much. And it's the same with Macon. If Macon make it, it's going to be the 8th seed. Same with Pensacola. And like there can only be one 8th seed. Like these teams ain't going to finish 7th and above. So I think that's a fair assessment, even though it's hard to hear for those fans, and they probably ain't going to like that I said it, but it doesn't make it any less true. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, going back, shifting focus back to Havoc and Rivermen. Before we get off here, I just want to touch on one more thing. First game coming up December 6th in Peoria. We play 6 times. Only twice in Peoria, 4 times in Huntsville. Now last year, or in the final, like I said, we kind of already touched on this, and I said I'd bring it back. Jordan Ernst running into Mike Robb. Now, me being a Riverman fan, I say he was just crashing hard, lost an edge, accidents happen. But as a Havoc fan, you might have a little different opinion. And what
I
what
think
are your thoughts on it? Do you think come Peoria or Huntsville, maybe Ernst has to keep a head on a swivel and watch out, or
I think if you put your goalie glasses on, you'd see that that was malicious. The puck wasn't on a stick. He didn't lose an edge. He went head first into him. He lost an edge and went sideways, I'd say. But Riverman fans will see things the way they want to see them. Other people will see the way that it actually is. Peoria has their own little bubble of blurred vision that they have, but you can definitely tell that that was malicious. He had a clear shot. There wasn't a guy near him enough to even touch him with a stick. They even captured a little photo, and it showed right away that you've got no defense against that. I think Ernst has more to worry about from fans than he does Havoc. The one thing I do really respect from our coaching staff, that goes back to even with Glenn, grudges were never really a part of their game. They never let their players stoop to that level. There was never a we'll get you back in our stadium or next time we see you we're gonna cheap shot the shit out of you. I mean, you saw that even in game 3. The game was over and the Havoc still weren't being cheap. They went out dignified. I don't think Ernst has anything to worry about from the players. I think it's more going to be from the fans, and those are just me the fans that remember he's the one that did it. I will do my best to remind them, but I don't think that he has anything to worry about. Stu does not play cheap hockey. Um, he doesn't let the guys get cheap. He lets them defend his players, and the guys know that. They know the right times to go. But I don't think it's going to be. I think you and I make it a bigger issue than it'll be next year. And I think we just do it because it's fun to do. I don't think it was right. I definitely think that Ernst probably needs some retribution sent to him. But I mean, then that's really not the nature of the game, and that's one thing that I do like about Havoc hockey is they do play respectfully. There's been times where I remember there was a few years ago, and this is where Reginaldo became fan favorite. One of our players got cheap shot. Reggie was on the bench. He left the bench and beat the shit out of this guy. Um, he was an instant legend at that point and a fan favorite right off the bat. There are times like that where a player gets it, but it's there and it's done. And if it's not done at that game, it's not going to be carried over to the next game. Not that the players probably wouldn't want to do that, but the coaching staff keeps it very controlled, and that's where I think the Havoc played so much better against the Rivermen than any other team. Is they didn't play that dirty style hockey. They never got off their game. They played their game, and their game's a physical game, but it's a fast scoring game too, and that's how they wore the Rivermen down. The Rivermen are used to being able to beat the shit out of you for a period and a half and then take over the third period. Um, and you saw that with Evansville. Was a game 2. Evansville played a very tight game, but they just got worn down because they couldn't play their game for long. Rivermen were able to take over because they wore Evansville down. Well, with Rivermen, with the Havoc, they couldn't do it. Even in game 2, the one bad bounce off the glass, if the guy just takes that shot, we're tied and probably see overtime. And who knows what happens there because you guys sucked in overtime last year. But game 3, you could tell the Havoc weren't playing their game, and the Rivermen wore them down, mainly in that first period. But they just played great defense. So I definitely think, yeah, Ernst is probably clear. We will all probably cheer him when he gets hit. We'll all probably, bark at him, stuff like that. But as far as on the ice, there's nothing I think kind of come back for that. But it'd be great if there was.
And for the record, as a goalie, no, I'm pissed at that, and no, I'm not okay with that, and I would want retribution too. If not done from, even if my guys around me took care of it, I personally would want retribution back for that. So, but as a Rivermen fan, it was a hard play, it happened, But no, as a goalie, I don't even have to say it. So
And part of that too is I wonder how much retribution was fought back when Corth Palthorpe beat the shit out of your guy blindside in there in that third period. I can't remember who it was he hit, but he laid him out clean. They ended up kicking him out for 5 minutes and then suspended him the next game. I think that probably Ernst issue. That's where I think tensions rolled over. The Havoc knew that it was going to be tough to come back then. And then with that running into Mike, and I think he saw his opening and just took a very legal shot on the guy. I don't think that was right, but I think that pretty much put an end to the retribution there. And it sucks that another person had to pay for that incident, but we see that happen all too often in hockey, where the guy who commits the flagrant foul likes to run and hide all day long, so then some poor innocent dude takes the punishment back to even it out.
yeah, police in the game, gotta love it. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I do look forward to these meetings with Havoc. Like I said, it's nothing but fun for me. I definitely have no ill will towards Huntsville, the fans, the players. I've had nothing but respect for them from the start. So, like I said, I always look, I circle the matchups on the calendar all the time. I literally do. They're fun for me to watch. And so I definitely, coming off this finals, I definitely got them circled. And that first game, December 6th, which my birthday is December 8th. So happy birthday to me. I get to see Huntsville.
December 8th, no other time. Don't let him fucking do it to your league, your stadium. December 8th is his only birthday.
Yeah. December 8th is the real birthday. It's not every day and it's not every game. December 8th, just for the record. But yeah, hey, happy birthday to me. Huntsville comes to town. And I think that's a great birthday present. And it'll be even better when Peoria gets the dub. So, again, Zach, thanks for being on and talking with me. I swear you could co-host these things with me by now. And obviously, I'm going to have you back on for more. So, again, thanks for joining me. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. I mean, it's another one of your long episodes, and we just got big shoes to fill after what you said last night. Being I was the top video until Ryan had to go and knock me off. So
Yeah.
got,
You've always been my longest videos and my most popular videos until Ryan Devine. And then he kind of overtook you even in length. But yeah, we're still back at it, an hour. I predicted this would be a 45-minute video. Fell short of that, but hour, whatever. Same thing.
if Chris Levine or Laverne or whatever the hell his name is over there, Mr. Sleeveless, watches the whole thing.
Yeah, you know he does. He loves it. He secretly wants to be on a video. He does. I know he does, and he will. If I get Ryan Devine to be on a video, this dude needs to be on a video too about the dogs. Tell me people wouldn't watch that, and I'll call you a liar if you say nobody would watch that.
A sign in one of the playoff games last year that said he secretly likes you. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought so. I seen that sign. I did.
it could have been somebody, it could have been anybody, but I definitely saw it.
He wants to. He knows he does. But all right, Zach. We'll get together soon and have to do another one of these. Thanks for joining us. As always, I keep it Riverman style. He's gonna keep it Havoc style. See you at the next puck drop.